So digitization, I think it has the potential to become one of the buzzwords of the year. I think last year or over the last 2 years it was something like disruptive. Everything had to be disruptive. As of now, everything has to be digital. A digital revolution, the digital transformation, whatever. And still, it's very challenging for a lot of companies to tackle all those questions that are connected to the digitization. In essence, this is nothing new. We've seen that before. We've seen over the last centuries how technology changes the world. And we've seen before that some companies or some groups try to prevent technological development, but it doesn't work out. This is something from 1865, the so-called Red Flag Act. In the UK, they tried to figure out how to prevent immobilization of the society. And the solution was that it required that each motor-driven car had to be driven by 2 persons, and in front of each car, someone with a red flag had to walk ahead and had to warn all others that there's a car coming. The car was not allowed to drive faster than 4 miles per hour, by the way. Nevertheless, there were hundreds, not to say thousands, of casualties over the next 3 decades, and my personal assumption was the guys with the flags. Probably they fell asleep and that was that. Second remark, when it comes to digitization, please try to make sure that you're talking about the same things. Digital transformation, in essence, can focus on 3 different corridors. You can either focus on the customer experience, the customer front end. Second, you can focus on your own processes, your production, optimize them. And third, and most challenging, you can focus on the business model itself and reinvent your business model. But make sure that you're talking about the same things, otherwise something like this might happen as we're approaching Christmas. If small Kevin writes to Santa Claus, "Dear Santa Claus, I'd like to have a THQ Wii Smackdown with Dragon Ball Budokai and War Republic Heroes." And Santa Claus answers, "Dear Kevin, I've got no idea what you're talking about, you'll get a book." This is how a lot of discussions about digitization and innovation figure out today. And the third remark, before I start with an outlook into the future world, is this here. This is probably one of the most important slides that you might see nowadays. It's an exponential function. And this is the great difference to what we've seen over the last decades or centuries when it comes to technological development. More and more developments are in these exponential functions. It's like knowledge in oncology. It doubles each 2 years. You all know Moore's law, that the processor speed doubles each 2 years. And it's quite challenging because we're not used to handle developments that are not linear, but that are exponential. And between those linear thinking and exponential speed of technological development, this is exactly where all those new disruptive business models try to attack you. If you're still on this linear line, you'll get a problem over the next few months or years or even today, because digital disruption is already the new reality in a lot of industries. The world's biggest taxi company doesn't own any taxis. The world's biggest accommodation provider doesn't own any flats. Sorry, I just need my glasses, it's too small here to read. The world's biggest telecommunication companies don't have a telco infrastructure. The world's biggest retailer doesn't have any inventory. The world's most prominent media owner doesn't produce any content. The world's fastest growing bank doesn't operate with traditional money. The world's biggest movie house doesn't have any cinemas. The world's biggest software providers don't program any apps. So what does it mean for fleet managers? How will the future of the world's biggest fleet managing company look like in a couple of years? Will it be a software platform or will you still run the infrastructure itself? All those business models just focus on the software layer and try to scale that software business models up on a very fast pace. Wouldn't work if you have to provide all the infrastructure behind that. This leads to an assumption that was formulated 3 years ago by two analysts in the United States, Paul Nunes and Larry Downs, who said nearly everything you think to know about strategy and innovation is wrong. Because all those basic logics have changed so much over the last couple of years. So let's take a look at our future living and working in a connected world. And I try to start with something that I call my personal belief. The future will be a mobile future. So if you're still struggling with your online solutions or your web platforms or whatever, please make the next step now and focus on mobile. The web is a social web, and this is important because users become producers and they get used to these logics. They get used to being asked, to being incorporated, to provide their assumptions, their recommendations and all that stuff. And this is what they demand from other companies as well, because this is changing their personal experience. Social networks are already accessed in the majority of cases via mobile devices nowadays, and mobile does no longer mean on the go, but in many instances it means it's a very comfortable situation and you use your iPad or whatever to make business and all that. And this is important as well for business models, because we see that, for instance, on Black Friday, the last Black Friday in the States, more than 40% of all revenues were ordered by mobile devices, 95% of those revenues with an iPad. So Apple is still in front of that. But the important point is 3 or 4 years ago there was a lot of hesitation whether people would be willing and would accept to make something like mobile payment or to make an insurance or a bank contract via a mobile device, or whether they would restrain from that because of security issues. No, they don't. If the applications are comfortable enough, if the user experience is good enough, people will do that and people will use those mobile devices. So the challenge is to reinvent your solutions in a way that they can be run in a comfortable way on a mobile device. Good news for everyone who's building those devices, good news for everyone who programs applications. For us, the more important point is this, the Internet of Things, with an estimated 50 to 70 billion connected devices by the year 2020. This is just 3 years from now, more or less. 50 to 70 billion. So we're living in a very connected world in a very foreseeable future. And this will change some of our basic assumptions, and this will change some of our logics that we still have. I'll try to explain that, or I'll try to show some examples how these logics will change and what it means for all of us. First, smart cities. I think probably all of us have an idea in mind when it comes to smart cities, that we'll have a connection of all the infrastructure devices and traffic and public services and all that stuff. I would like to focus on just 2 examples for that. Bristol has declared itself an open programmable city last year in a cooperation with the University of Bristol. And I think this is a very, very interesting thing that they have started there, because they say we'll run this city like an iTunes store. So we have the network, we have the infrastructure, you are free to decide whatever you think is useful. You are free to program apps for this infrastructure and to make this city a smart city. And it's a kind of open innovation approach that we see as successful in a lot of different industries, taken to the public sphere right now. And I think they will be faster than any other programs that we see online. Second example, Amsterdam. Any one of you by chance been there in the last few weeks or months? No. Yes, you. Okay. So let me just pose a simple question. Have you been in the safe areas of Amsterdam, or would you like to go into the dark quarters as well? Safe areas usually, yeah? Okay. Amsterdam has set up a pilot project with Cisco and Philips in some quarters for smart lighting, smart street lighting. And they do some things that you would expect them to do. So they look at traffic data and they look at maintenance data and all that stuff. And then they do something that you wouldn't expect. They incorporate the crime rates into that system. And wherever you have a high crime rate, they increase the intensity of the lighting. So these are the bright areas in Amsterdam. And wherever there is a low crime rate, they decrease the lighting. So you have to switch your expectations. It's just the other way around. The dark areas, the dark corners are the safe ones. And the bright areas are the unsafe ones with high crime rates. And this is just one example how those sensor networks, those algorithms, will change the value of what we have experienced so far. There will be new decision layers that we don't have an idea how they work. Basically, none of us has an idea how insurance rates work today, or bank rates, credit rates, all that stuff. A lot of algorithms in the background. Nobody can explain why the offering for you is just like 3.4% and not 3.2 or whatever. This is exactly what's happening here. On the other hand, all those cities, those smart cities, will change how they work and they will change how they look. And we'll see a first few examples for that. This is from Tehran, the Sharifa La House, an adaptive house that can be adjusted to climate conditions. We've seen the first 3D printed villa in China, in Winsun, 1,100 square meters, built up in 5 days for 140,000 euros. Promising, isn't it? We'll see an office building in Dubai planned for next year, operational in 2017, and we'll have a 3D printing device incorporated in one of those modules so that they can adapt that building to future challenges or demands or whatever. They can change the layout of that office later on. When it comes to smart homes, in Germany alone we'll have around 1 million smart homes by the year 2020. It's basically the same assumption here. Those houses will react and they will adapt to climate conditions, they will adapt to whether someone is at home or not, and all those electronics will be adjusted like that. We've made a study just a couple of weeks ago on how smart homes will have an impact on our future living, and I will just talk about the last two topics here. Smart homes will enhance health, and smart homes will become an integral part of everyday living. How does that work? What has a house to do with our future living or with the health? Well, the answer is quite simple. Back to exponential functions. Back in 1999, the cost for the DNA sequencing of a single genome was $2.7 billion, quite unaffordable. In 2014, it was $1,000, and this man here, Jörg Wallner, CEO of BGI, the company, the biggest gene sequencing company worldwide, he predicts that by the year 2018 to 2020, he can offer that service for less than 100 euro. And the second thing that he promises you is that he'll analyze your personal bacteria mix. And based on these two informations, your personal genome and your bacteria mix, he will provide you with functional food. That's his business model. And that functional food shall increase your life expectancy to 150 to 170 years. So if you can afford that, you might prolong, you might double your life expectancy. And if it is like that, and we're talking about 2018 to 2020, if it is like that, and you use your toilet early in the morning in that scenario, then you will not only just flush 20 liters of water afterwards, but that toilet will tell you whether you are healthy or sick and what you can do to improve your health status. This is how your house, your smart house, will help you with your living and with your health condition. Just one example for that. Let's leave that room, the restroom, and head to the wardrobe. Something's happening here that changes business models. Just looks like a small mirror that's incorporated in your wardrobe. But what's actually happening here, that mirror will tell you whether you have certain trousers, blouses, shoes, whatever, in that wardrobe. And if you don't have them there, and they are recommended with all the other stuff that you want to wear, just one click away. Just click on it and you order it. And you get it delivered to your home or wherever you want. So business logics are changing here basically. The decision what you wear and where you buy it and which recommendations you will follow, those decisions are taken into the mirror of your wardrobe. Say, into the software platform that provides the information for that mirror. It's no longer the retail store down there, it's no longer a fashion magazine. It's your mirror and the software platform. And either you are into that software platform and have the chance to offer your products and your services, or you lose the contact to your customer. We'll see a lot of technology coming into retail right now. This was one of the most controversial approaches for that, a company called Face Deals. The basic business model is that you log in with your Facebook account and you provide a photograph of yourself. And then this company will install cameras at the front door of stores. And the next time you enter one of those stores, there's a face recognition software. So the store manager will know who you are, will know your Facebook account, will know what you're discussing, will know what you're interested in or what you're not interested in, will know what you're recommending, etc., etc. And he can offer you especially and exactly what's good for you or what he thinks what's right for you right now. This was controversial because of the face recognition technology. It's too obvious. A lot of retailers do exactly this as of now based on beacon technology. It's not that obvious, you don't have a camera in use, but you get the same amount of information on your customers. You know what he's interested in, you know what he's done in your iPhone application, in the app, and you can exactly tackle that challenge. And it doesn't always have to be a human to provide a personal experience. A lot of retailers try to provide a better personal, a better customer experience, an individualized offering for products and services as of now. And it may even be delivered by robots. This is what Nestlé is already running in Japan when they try to sell coffee machines. The basic for all those services, if you try to improve your products from a mass market logic to individualized to adaptive logics, then you have to have the opportunity and the ability to use the informations that are provided by social networks, and you have to run a lot of artificial intelligence to get things done. And basically, the most important thing that you have to remember is that virtual reality will build an additional optional layer for all of us in the very foreseeable future. I'm talking about something up to 2020. We will have the opportunity to switch it on and off just as we like. We won't always rely on those virtual layers and on those recommendation engines. There will definitely be a lot of decisions that we take that will remain a personal decision, where I don't want to have this support of a recommendation engine or artificial intelligence or whatever, because it has to do something with values and assumptions and social intelligence and empathy and all those things. But on the other hand, we'll have a lot of support from these systems, and this will have consequences for all of us. I mean, all of you who are sitting here, we're all knowledge workers, aren't we? And on average, we spend 3 to 4 hours per day just to find the information that is needed to get our job done. 3 to 4 hours per day. Because we have stupid systems, stupid intranets that are not adaptive, that are not predictive, they don't know what we're doing next. At least this is the baseline. This leads to one consequence. We are not efficient enough in the way we work, so we'll see new competition from robo-advisors. We'll see an automation of knowledge work. There was a study from the University of Oxford, probably you know that, predicting that over 70% of all jobs have a probability of more than 70% that they can be automated over the course of the next 10 years. And knowledge workers were at the forefront of that. And we see the same logic transferred to production. Industry 4.0 is one of the biggest challenges here when you try to connect data and your products and the production lines in a more and more intelligent way that allows you to set up new business models and that provides a better incorporation of suppliers or customers or whatever into the value chain. So this was a very fast run through a future scenario for our living and working world. Let's use the last few minutes for a look on outlook on future mobility. And future mobility is not just something that has to do with cars or autonomous driving. There are a lot of different concepts right now, and a lot of those guys has been on one of our future congresses over the last 2 to 3 years. For instance, Bas Lansdorp, who tries to set up these funny little things on the Mars. And you can apply now to be one of the astronauts with a one-way ticket flying to the Mars in 2027. Set up a new civilization. Elon Musk focusing SpaceX inter alia now on the big fucking rocket and the big fucking space shuttle, as he calls it actually, shall be operational in 2024 and shall provide the opportunity for a lot of people just to fly around the Earth to get that experience. Another one who's trying to get this done is Richard Branson from Virgin Galactic. He wasn't so successful with Spaceship One due to a human failure. That spacecraft crashed. But it doesn't stop the program. There will be another test run that is scheduled for next year with a newly developed spaceship number 2. Shown on the CES this year was the concept for a drone that is capable to transport 1 to 2 persons in cities or bigger cities and avoid all that traffic jam that you usually have there. And this is not just a concept that's discussed out of Europe. We have the same discussion in Europe. Airbus has announced that they want to prototype their project Vahana next year, a similar project that is a fully automated drone that can transport you from A to B. And interesting enough, Dirk Ahlborn, he is one of the CEOs. There are 2 different companies who have set up or who have used Elon Musk's vision of a hyperloop as a starting point for their companies. Dirk Ahlborn is one of those 2 guys, and he will probably set up the first test runs in 2018. Hyperloop is a transportation system that will take you from, say, Los Angeles to San Francisco in 30 minutes, something like that. So it's faster than an airplane, much faster than an airplane, and much faster than railroads. Yes, it's true Not every dream has come true, and I don't believe that each and every concept that I've shown you here will come true and we'll find enough astronauts to follow them. But we'll see severe changes in how mobility is run. Copenhagen might be a blueprint for new environmental and bicycle-friendly traffic planning. Uber is just a herald of disruptive business models for mobility and transportation. And by the way, it hasn't decreased the amount of transportation in the San Francisco Bay Area, but it has doubled the amount of transportation services that are provided in that area. So disruption does not necessarily mean that it's shrinking the markets. It's just the other way around. And it won't stop. Remember, it won't stop. We have more than 900 startups focusing right now on connected transportation. All aspects: telematics, ride-hailing, location mapping, auto wireless networking, smart city, car sharing, etc., etc., etc. More than 900 startups that are funded with an increased amount of money. And that leads to John Zimmer, CEO of Link, saying, "Our society is at a fork in the road, and whether we take the right path is not inevitable. I don't have all the answers, but what I do know is that decisive action must be taken by all of us, business leaders, policymakers, city planners and citizens, to realize the full potential of this almost unprecedented moment in history." An almost unprecedented moment in history. This is where we are right now. And it has started in 2009. When it comes to autonomous driving, we see a changing demand, especially in the big cities, changing demand, changing actors, autonomous driving, mobility as a service. These are all the buzzwords and the concepts that we see since, say, 7 to 8 years. Google, Apple with its project Titan, an unlimited budget was announced for that project. Given that Apple has something like $240 billion, then an unlimited budget is a lot of money that they can use to provide solutions for this. As far as it seems to be, I think nobody really knows it, but there was some rumor that this project has been refocused this year on software development, that they don't try any longer to produce an own car, but that they try to produce the operating system for autonomous driving. Like the iOS, there will be maybe an AOS for autonomous driving. Tesla will be here in the discussion and available with their cars outside, has just announced that all new cars will ship with level 5 autonomous driving hardware. This was announced a few weeks ago. Uber started its self-driving pilot program in September and has announced that it will replace their drivers, they talk about their dudes, as fast as possible. I think that's really interesting. As of now, they rely on their dudes to make some money, and here they state that they want to get rid of them as fast as possible, as soon as possible. Well, this is really disruptive. And Uber has also acquired a company that's called Otto, and last month there was the first shipment, the first commercial shipment provided with such a self-driving truck. It was a very valuable load. They had 50,000 beer cans from Anheuser-Busch on board. So it was really a big risk that they had taken there. Lyft. GM has invested $500 million in Lyft recently. And their semi-autonomous cars on fixed routes shall start driving in 2017. So it's all over the next 2 years so far. LeEco in China will start an outsourced mass production of driverless electric cars, that's called LeC, from 2018 onwards. And they've done something that's quite remarkable. I don't have it here in the picture. If you change the mode of that car from self-driving to autonomous driving, then the steering wheel will fold back. So there will be no irritation with the steering wheel that moves on autonomous mode, but this will be folded back as soon as you start the autonomous mode. So interesting enough. Maybe some of you know those Google videos from autonomous driving cars where you have two people sitting there, an elder couple in this car, and as long as there is a steering wheel in this car, it's very spooky to be in that car. The woman is screaming all the time, like, whoa, what's happening here? And as soon as she's sitting in another car that has no steering wheel and that's just driving in an autonomous mode, everything's fine. It's convenient, it's comfortable, it doesn't produce any fear. So the steering wheel will be one of the main challenges for this kind of autonomous driving. How do you solve that? Is it a foldable solution or will you find another solution? Baidu, they are also thinking about an outsourced mass production of driverless electric cars, announced for 2021, and they are starting test runs right now. BMW, as you probably know, or a lot of you will know here, has teamed up with Mobileye, has teamed up with Intel to deliver fully self-driving cars, as was announced for the iNext by 2021. So it's no longer the 2025 threshold, but we're talking about 2017, 2018, 2020, 2021, something like that. I'm not sure, but maybe we'll get a better impression, a better feeling for that over the course of this day. I'm not sure whether we'll have all technical requirements settled by then and whether we'll have all other requirements based on infrastructure and legal aspects and insurance aspects and all that by 20 or 2021. But for sure, this will be a driving force, a big driving force. Technology will be a big driving force for all the other things that have to be decided. From our perspective, there's one big difference between the stance and the strategies that classic OEMs are following and what Silicon Valley players and the Chinese software companies are doing right now. The OEMs, in our assumption, or from our perspectives, are focusing on a step-by-step improvement of autonomous driving, focusing on level 3 right now. And on the other hand, those Silicon Valley and Chinese software players, they are directly heading for level 4 or maybe even level 4 or 5 autonomous driving. So it's no step-by-step approach, but they will try to reach that very soon. And here's another view on 4 phases of autonomous driving that I'd like to present to you. First step, the steering wheel disappears, and it seems to be a typical German stance. Cars built for active drivers with a steering wheel. American approach is much more different than Chinese approach also. It's much more based on commodity, on the question, what else can you do while you're sitting in a car? How can you use this captive environment for your business models, for your business logics, for services that you provide to those people while they are driving in an autonomous car? The most likely outcome will be the development of adaptive interiors. Phase 2, the business model evolution. The focus shifts from the vehicle to the business model itself. Fleets of self-driving cars will cycle cities and be operated by different providers. Fleet management. Users pay per drive instead of paying for a vehicle. So probably you don't have to own the vehicle any longer to make use of the comfortable aspects of being able to use a car whenever you feel the need to do so. Step 3, mobility as a free service. Increased competition will lead to marginal costs for the use of self-driving cars. This is what we have seen in telecommunications, this is what we see in energy, this is what we see in a lot of different industries where we have an increased competition. Prices drop down to nearly 0. So our expectation is that the prices for driving a self-driving car or using a self-driving car will decrease to nearly nothing. The monetization will then have to be through value-added complementary services for passengers while they are in that captive environment. And step 4, when you think about blockchain logics and blockchain mobility, it might even be that self-driving cars don't need an owner any longer, that they make their business on their own. Cars that own itself will find passengers and do business on their own. And new regulations and liability rules would have to be applied for that, obviously. But this might be one of the outcomes. Blockchain technology now just entering the insurance and the bank industries, and they are very afraid of what's actually happening there. Whether you need all those middle management logics any longer, all those contract logics any longer, or whether you can just get rid of that based on blockchain. One more thing. We are right here. This is the so-called iPhone moment. Yeah? There has been some disappointment over the last few years. It's not been that fast, it's not been that good, it's not been that reliable. The Oculus Rift has been introduced into the market this year. It has not yet led to that revolution of virtual reality, for instance, etc., etc., etc. But we are right there. And from there on, it's only chaos and amazement following. So, and you have to be aware of that, and you have to be very fast to follow that opportunities. And basically you have 3 different options how you can handle that. You can either make things happen, or you can watch things happen, or you can say, oh, what happened? Hopefully you're on the first track. Thank you very much, and I'm really looking forward to the discussion and the workshops later on. Thank you.